Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mic with Mike. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me today for round two, it has been a while. It's such a pleasure and a privilege to speak with this individual once more. She is the one, the only, Miss Aliss Inc. How are you, Aliss?
I am great. Thank you for having me again.
Of course, first and foremost, for those who've not been following Aliss, she has been on a traveling schedule, if you will. Like we say, the grind never stops in professional wrestling, and which is the ultimate craft. But you, man, Japan, your home of Sweden, just all around, everywhere, man. You've been really doing the damn thing. It's great to see just to continue your progression and succession.
I mean, 2023 has been a great year so far. I mean, so far it's almost over, but I'm looking forward to see where this is going to lead on. I actually counted the other day, and I've been in 6 different countries this year wrestling. So yeah, it's a ride, and I'm trying to enjoy it as much as I can.
I think you have to. And we talk about this all the time. I've always equated when you look at professional wrestling and just combat sports in general, anything that has a combative nature with it. I also look at it like music. Like music, you're constantly on the grind with concerts and the rock and roll lifestyle, if you will. Wrestling has that similar travel, the grind. I think every time I talk to you, what I love about you too as well is you're always so open to travel, whether it be internationally, and we'll talk about statewide here side in a second here, folks, because this one made her US debut. But what I love about the fact is like I always love your grind and how you're always willing to just travel anywhere, because that's the ultimate, passion right there. That's the ultimate sacrifice, because people don't even realize the two biggest things in professional wrestling is the two M's, if you will, the money and the miles.
I'd say as far as indie wrestling goes, it's more the miles than the money. but
that's very
But I
true.
mean, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. But no, but it's exactly as you're saying. It's a lot of time. It's not just the time in the ring, obviously, but the traveling, the airports, just the days in hotels, like different places. I mean, now recent travels, tour buses, and getting from point A to point B. You know, a lot of the times you don't actually see that much of the country you're in, which is a bit of a shame, obviously. So I'm very lucky when I get some days in between and actually can lift my head a little bit and see, okay, what is actually, where am I and what am I doing and what is this country about? Because that's a bit of a luxury in wrestling, I'd say.
Oh,
Um,
great. Absolutely. That's the thing too. And you make a great point here. And I think what's very valid that we can learn here in today's forum, folks, is when it comes to life in general, it's taken in the moments and memories created, and the moments and memories yet to be created. I think that's what's also the great part about wrestling. And like you mentioned, it's kind of like a hiccup, if you will. You're in, you're out, and then on to the next, so to speak. But I think what's great about it too is even that minuscule experience, it's a rush, man. I mean, I've seen you in front of those crowds. I mean, I've always said this about your in-ring work as we touch upon this. You have your kicks, you have your strikes, but you can also suplex a son of a gun, which I'm going to say right now, very fluid in the suplexes. I've always loved just seeing your in-ring work and how you add more to the repertoire. It's very fascinating, but also at the same time, I love it just because, I mean, there's always something new to learn and to adapt within your style. And just as a being, I think you've really hit that in the year 2023.
this is the thing, you're never gonna know everything about wrestling. You just try to emulate as much as you can while you're doing it. And I mean, pick up the small pieces that works for you, more or less. Um, I mean, obviously you can have a style, and I have my base style, obviously in martial arts. But if it's something that looks interesting, I'm gonna try doing it at some point. I mean, if it's something that fits my body to do, I will definitely try it. So and that's how you learn. That's how you find out. Like, is this something I should have in my repertoire?
Mhm.
Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But it's a journey in itself. Just trying to figure out what type of wrestler am I gonna be in a day, in a week, in a year. I think it should be fluent, or at least I think that's how I need to think about it to make it fun. I mean, wrestling is fun, but my goal has never been it's never been about the money for me. It has never been about being famous, because I'm kind of started out in the wrong scene for that, so to speak.
Mhm.
Obviously, there is a market for those things as well, but it's this point certainly not in Sweden, and very rare as well in Europe. So, uh, but I fell in love with the craft, with what wrestling is, and how to figure this new thing out. Because I mean, obviously coming in from martial arts, finding out what wrestling is about, how to try to put my experiences into that, and then try to figure it out with everything else. It's like it's a puzzle, and I like puzzles. I'm trying to figure this one out, but I mean, I never will. But I'll try to make it as complete as I can for the character or the wrestler that I can be.
First of all, this one over here with the I like puzzles. I like the analogy that you made there. I think that's a great analogy. I like the way you put that. It reminds me, I mean, it kind of reminds me of, and when wrestlers, and I'll put this to you like this, folks, back in like 2002, WWE used to have a show that aired at like 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday called Confidential. And one of the specials that they did on that, because you brought me back to when you said a puzzle thing, they talk about injuries in pro wrestling. Like, and Billy Kidman, for those who know Billy Kidman, WCW, WWE, he was also a producer in WWE. Like he was talking about, like, when I tore my PCL, it's kind of like, it's kind of like a game of how I could get through this, how to put the pieces together, where to go, because sometimes you have to call an audible in matches. I like that too as well, just because putting the pieces together, not just in your life and in your journey, but also in professional wrestling, it, like you mentioned, the craft and really just applying it. And with Europe becoming such a big market, from Sweden, from the UK, from Japan, from Spain, what have you, I think this is the time where a lot of people are looking to put those puzzle pieces together, so to speak, to admit to your point, but also at the same time, man, just create their own picture, create their own art, if you will, and really apply that craft, because at the end of the day, you're the one painting your own canvas.
No, exactly. And I mean, the pieces needed is going to differ from match to match, depending on the opponent, depending as well on stipulations and so on. So it's always going to be that way of thinking. I think it's always going to be something to figure out. How can this story be the best story it can be for this one.
Oh, agreed. And let's talk about your story here, man, because if you've not checked out Aliss on Instagram, which you should, by the way, because you post a lot of great photos from your matches and your upcoming dates. But god dang it, man, we've seen you busted up with some lips, if you will. You come out the warrior that you are. You go hard in the paint, the hardcore style. I gotta say, a lot of your recent matches, which we'll get into here, you've really gone through the gusto, so to speak. So I gotta say, put in that front, man. You've been really tearing it up with the style and just the overall craft in your said matches, man. Because I got to say, the scars, if you will, the quote Papa Roach, you tear your heart open just to heal, if you will.
I mean, you get out of wrestling. I mean, at the very best case scenario, you get as much out of wrestling as you put in. But you're never gonna get more out of it than you put in. So put in everything you have, basically. Always try to leave everything in the ring. I think that's the only way to go with this.
I think it's the balls to the wall type of vibe. And what I like about it too, as well, is when you go all in, and not that all in, not pun intended there, but when you go all in, as far as just professional wrestling and anything that you do, I got to say, first and foremost, we talk about all the style here. Let's talk about Japan here for a second, man, because you have really been in with a lot of the greats, from the integral parts and just the overall. I'm going to say it pretty much intertwines with a lot of the wrestlers that we've seen in All Japan, Stardom, everything that goes into that division. You've been in there with the likes of, my God, man, Mayu Yamashita for Tokyo Joshi Pro. You've been in there with so many people that really eclect to the Stardom side of things. You've been in there with Nane Takahashi. Like, there's a lot of talents in there that have wrestled, like the likes of Emi Sakura, dare I say, Hikaru Shida. It's such a mixed bag of talent. I wanted to ask you about Japan here, because if there's any place to really hone your craft, man, the Stardom gates, the Tokyo Joshi Pro, it's become such a hotbed for women like yourself, women like Regina Rosendahl, who is someone who you've been attached to at the hip for most of your career as well. And unfortunately, she is out with an injury, but god dang, that woman's taking the world by storm. I love it. I love seeing you ladies doing your thing in Japan too.
I mean, Japan's been absolutely amazing. That was always like, since I started on my wrestling journey, Japan was always kind of like the goal I had in mind, but wasn't sure I was ever going to get to. That was kind of like my mountaintop at the time. And to actually get the chance to go not only to Japan, but also go to Stardom of all promotions, that's really been mind blowing. And I'm assuming we might talk about that a little bit later on. But obviously, coming into this, having a quite serious injury just before, obviously made me quite worried about this trip as well, because I wasn't exactly sure how the healing was going to go, and I just knew I had to do it. So, and getting there and just getting get to work with these people and just being a part of the community has been such a good experience. and it really enforced my love for wrestling. Being there and touring this with these so accomplished women, and just being in the ring as well, like getting the feel for how is it to work for this audience with this specific. Because I mean, obviously the Japanese style is a bit different, and just trying to figure out how to be the best Alice I can be for this audience and for this style of matches. And I mean, it's been really fun, and it's also been challenging, obviously, but it's an experience I'm so happy to have been able to get. And I think I've come out stronger from it as well. So I'm looking forward to bringing that part of Alice into 2024 as well.
I love that. No, and I can't stop smiling because when I think of Japan, and I'll take everybody back here, I always used to equate it to like when before a superstar would go to WWE or TNA. And I mean, we've seen all those integral parts and the integration, so to speak. For the women's side of things, it's like back in the day, you had like 0-1, and you still have All Japan, you still have New Japan, you still have Stardom. What I love about it too, as well, is when you look at the Stardom aspect, you think of women like Io Shirai, Asuka. You think about women like Kairi Sane. You think of people like I mentioned, like Mayu Yamashita. You think of people like Mayu Iwatani. You think about, just everything that goes into it. And what I love about the overall integration of the women's wrestling in Japan, like the fact that they got their own spot with Kairi Sane wrestling on Wrestle Kingdom, and then you saw Mercedes Moné come into the mix for a little bit. Everybody wants to go to Japan. Not only that, number one, but also number two, like you talk about working the style, the Japanese fan base, you see a lot of clapping because in the States, I'll be honest with you, we got that rowdy bunch of just yelling, cheering, booing, what have you. They're making a reaction, but just the discipline that the Japanese fan base has and just the discipline that goes into it, I love that just because it adds another layer to professional wrestling, and it just shows why each and every style and each and every art form of professional wrestling is something that a lot of people can gravitate towards.
Yes, most definitely. And I mean, it's all about, I mean, I'll take it from Nanae Takahashi in this case, actually. It's all about passion. And you
Yes.
can really feel that in the ring with the Japanese as well. It's like, I mean, I'm a huge fan of anime, and the storytelling in the ring for these kind of matches, I can in the back of my head, I still like I see the storytelling in a lot of my favorite animes as well, like how the fights are built, but also how the long-term storytelling is told. It's all about the fighting spirit more than anything else. It's not good or bad guy is not as important in this case. It's just like you want to feel the passion. You want to have that across to the audience, which is also it is different working from a crowd that has different types of reactions. Obviously, it's well in the especially in the Nordics, but also around Europe. I feel like it's more rowdy crowds than quiet crowds, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Which is obviously fun because, and then you get the reactions. You can read the audience much easier, obviously, and it's also you get the energy from that. And you have to find that in other ways in Japan because they're just as invested in the product, and they know a lot about the wrestling as well. This is it is an educated audience in a lot of cases, and they care about their wrestlers. I mean, I came in like a couple of weeks in, and people had made hurricane signs, which has always been the ring name for Stardom, Scandinavian Hurricane. And I was like, wow, they actually took the time and found photos online, printed them, wrote out in letters that I can read, which is obviously also very nice because a lot of people don't talk that much English in general. So yeah, no, it's they really care about they care about the wrestlers. They're involved in the product, even if you don't hear that the same way that you might be used to.
I've always equated it to with the Japanese fan base, and I'll say this: it's like, I know this is just in today's society. Like you look at a guy like Katsuyori Shibata, like when he suffered that subdural hematoma, and then when he came back, and you saw women crying. That Shibata, after this horrible injury, comes back. It's the emotion, it's the investment that they have. It's like whether you see, and I'll use women like Mayu Iwatani, like I mentioned, like we talk about Takahashi, like even Matsumoto back in the day, the Aja Kongs, if you will, the Bull Nakanos, so to speak. It's such a legendary reaction to these larger than life characters. And I think the women just, I don't include yourself in this here, Miss Alice. Think the women that are just out there today, I love the hunger. I just love how y'all are going, really falling in the predecessors before you to where you are now. I think it's wonderful to see. And you talk about that rabid fan base, man. Oof, Japan, everywhere in Europe. I think it's wonderful just to see the overall levels and the layers of how upward we're going in professional wrestling for women and professional wrestling in general. And I have to add this here because we're going to sidebar here, Miss Alice. Like, you talk about anime. You're a big fan of anime. You love the anime aspects. So I got to ask you, what's some of your favorite animes? We're going to put it on the table here. What's some of your favorite animes?
Oh, some of my all-time favorites, I'd say Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Mhm.
Absolutely amazing from start to finish. Also Attack on Titan.
Okay.
Really, really enjoyed. I'm still trying to catch up to One Piece. Eventually, maybe we'll get it. I don't know. I mean, I followed Naruto when that was running for forever, basically. But I mean, I watch so many different animes at this point. It's obviously not everything is great. Like, but everything else is gonna be it's gonna be good stories, gonna be bad stories. But I just there's something about the storytelling that is very compelling to me, and also the art style, obviously. Yeah, the new ones as well, like Jujutsu Kaisen. I've haven't watched that many episodes, so I started like checking it out a little bit. Very high, good potential on that one. So
I mean, people talk about like Jinx and stuff here and then the States, and I've always said this. Like, I grew up as a '90s kid with the Pokemons, the Digimons, and the Yu-Gi-Ohs when that was very popular. And I mean, I've always said this, and a lot of people will either go to the nerd stereotype or just like, oh, come on, man, anime, really? I'm like, if you really, like you mentioned, the valid point here, the storytelling that goes into it, and like really everything that plays into it, whether it be from a cartoon imagery standpoint or just the anime in itself, a lot of people don't even realize like how much heart, how much passion, and how much it really relates to today's society. Like, you can find in any pop culture, you can find in any sport, what have you. If it's relatable, then a lot of people, like we talk about that gravitational pull, so to speak, it's something, man. I mean, I've even seen a couple myself. It's like, it gets you. It also pulls on your heartstrings, but it's like, God dang it, man, this is really, really good.
and it's also I think as well, but people maybe not always realize it is that anime can be anything.
Mhm.
Like with it's like any other type of cartoon style. Obviously, the story can vary. So even if you don't like a specific type of anime, you might like something else. I mean, I know people that has a hard time with the power up type of anime, even the kind of like the tropey ones when yeah, the main character gets stronger and stronger and eventually end up. I mean, so it's almost on the borderline to ridiculous. I can kind of understand why that is not attractive to certain people, but there are so much other things. And I mean, just watch Spirited Away, an amazing movie. I've never heard anyone that's seen the movie not liking it. So it's all a matter of taste, though. And I think whatever type of story you want to have in your life, all good. Um, but everyone to their own vices in this case, I think. And to say that something is just for geeks or just for or whatever, I mean, it's not viable. Everything is available. Just have fun, live life.
I mean, I've always said in life, everything is subjective. And this one over here, talk about the Naruto life. Yes, ma'am, taking it back. I like your style. But no, I mean, you look at Naruto. I mean, hell, I mean, I remember on Nickelodeon when you had Avatar The Last Airbender, before you saw like the big movies with the Avatar and the blue and like the alien vibes to it, the sci fi aspect. Avatar The Last Airbender was actually really good when they aired that for a little bit. There's something for everybody. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody in today's society. You look at the reality shows, you look at shows like Love Island, people like The Bachelor. Is it everybody's cup of tea? No. But I mean, we're in the day and age of more reality television, and that's the direction they're going. There's something for everybody. Some people will crap on professional wrestling to this day, but I'm like, you don't knock it until you watch it. You know what I'm saying? People always form their opinions. Everything with social media is more this, and the United Front needs to be more like this. But it is what it is. And I think what gravitates people like yourself and people like myself is the fact that we get to find out about some of our newest favorite superstars on the rise, superstars that we haven't seen in a while. But you, ma'am, we talk about the stateside here. We got to bring this up because, first of all, congratulations, first and foremost. You got to work stateside, Combats, Fights Unlimited, CFU, great promotion on the Northeast, highlights MMA and professional wrestling school, getting in that cage, the style, everything with professional wrestling and MMA. Talk about coming stateside, because when you first announced that, I was excited, and I'm really happy that you got to actually get to the States. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, that was as an experience as a whole, a bit odd, I'd say, but I'll explain why. Because obviously, getting to the US was a huge opportunity, and I had planned for about a week's touring. Keeping to the same side, obviously. But I was landing in Philadelphia and had the first show planned for CFU, and promoter absolutely great, fixed everything, set me up. So yeah, I was looking forward to quite a busy week, and unfortunately, first match or like first show, obviously, I got an injury, so I couldn't actually complete the tour, which was serious enough that I had to actually leave earlier than expected. Um, so that was a bit sad, to be fair. And you know how it is when you get an injury in wrestling as well. It's like it's a lot of people to talk to. You need to take time off. You need to unfortunately call a lot of promoters and tell them, I'm sorry, I can't make the bookings, both in the US and obviously things back home in Europe as well. So it was tough. It was tough. I really enjoyed the CFU show, which was the one I was able to do. And yeah, but that was not the tour that I was hoping for.
Understood.
Uh,
I will say the positive side to this, because I got to say, first and foremost, I'm glad that you're healing now, and you got to work the Japan shows like we mentioned, and just really stay on your grind. I'm happy to see you just continuing to perform like only you could do, Miss Inc. But as well, they add the positive side to that, man. I mean, you did go in there with Kylan King, the mother effing King, who's now in Impact Wrestling, still doing her thing, and I got to actually see that bout not too long ago on the Combat Fights Unlimited YouTube channel. And the show, first and foremost, the shows are amazing, but you and Kylan King did the damn thing. Got to put that over on the positive side, because the show that you did work was awesome.
it was it was I really liked working that style, and I really loved working with Kylan as well. Uh, it was a shame what happened. You know, that's the thing in wrestling. Sometimes the margins are slightly on the wrong side, and in this case, it was enough to actually break my jaw. So, you know, I was eating through a straw
Oof.
for a couple months actually after. Uh, just healed up 1.5 weeks before leaving for Japan. So it all worked out, but it was a bit tough. But yeah, no, the match in itself, and just I'm working with Carolyn as well. She's an amazing worker, and also a very nice person, I found out.
Nah, she's one that is just on the rise. I mean, she's done work in AEW, NWA, and like we mentioned now with Impact Wrestling, former Knockouts Tag Team Champion with Miss Taylor Wilde, who's an OG from the Impact now TNA days. I think it's great to see not only that, but first and foremost, not only the fact that you came back from injury. I got to say something. I think, and I'm going to get a little spiritual here, and this is why I love you to death, Miss Inc. I think you have that ability. It doesn't matter whether it just be whatever. I think whatever you put into that universe, not the bad juju. Yes, I said the word juju, folks. What you put into the universe and the good karma that you have, I think also got you through that injury, and then your overall perspicacity and tenacity. Like I said, I'm happy to see you back on your feet. I mean, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but the main thing is you're here and you're doing the damn thing. So I got to give you blessings on that front.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be back. And obviously, the first couple shows after that was very. I mean, it went well. It went well, but it's obviously worrying when you just had a kind of a major injury, and then you're coming back, and you're gonna take hits to the face, right? That is a part of wrestling.
Right.
It's very hard to avoid, even if you try to minimize, it's still gonna be something. Uh, but yeah, getting over that first hurdle and then knowing, okay, it's good. I can do this now. It's fine. And once you're in the ring, you don't think so much about it. It's the before, like what would happen if. Um, so, but yeah, all good. Healed up as much as it will do. I still have some teeth that might need readjustment at some point when I have the time. But yeah, it's That's wrestling.
I'm gonna put an image into people's head because when you talk about teeth, I have the infamous image from when Rob Van Dam wrestled Abyss in TNA and RVD knocked Abyss's teeth like down here, and it looked like he had the fangs going, like the overall fangs, like it's something out of the Lost Boys. That's what it kind of reminds me of. You have like the fang
Yeah.
your teeth. Yes.
That
Oh
was
my.
actually my initial thought was that it actually but that one of the teeth was knocked in.
Yeah.
That was what I thought. I didn't actually realize the jaw was broken until almost a week after when I got the X-ray in Sweden.
Wow.
So, which was very lucky that it actually swelled and hurt so much. I didn't try the shoe because that could have actually damaged it quite a lot. Um, but yeah, I had the poor ref guy. Oh my god, because I panicked a little bit, like coming in backstage and realized I can't close my jaw.
Mhm.
So I try like get someone. Can someone like put the teeth back? Try to like communicate that, and people are like, "Are you serious? Can't do that. What the hell? What's wrong?" And yeah, he actually all kudos to him because he put on a glove and like dug in there and like tried to move things around, and eventually something moved. And probably, from what I've understood, the tooth was probably not the problem. He probably clicked the jaw back into joint, so I could actually close my mouth.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I looked like Quagmire on one side for a good few days after that.
The Quagmire reference. Yes.
It was like I looked horrible.
Oh, well, I cannot unsee Quagmire now, so thank you for that. But no,
Oh, you're welcome.
that's the thing too. No, it's interesting just of like how a reflection is, but by how we get these injuries and how we look and everything. I mean, we've seen it in wrestling today. It's a part of the game, as they say. It's not ballet, but I think, I mean, from what you've sustained, I think it really is great to see the comeback is strong. And I mean, for you, I got to put this over because you put it on your social media. It's PWI top 250 women's list, number 70. Ma'am, making the list. First off, number one, congrats, but also number two, that's got to make you feel good.
I mean, that was yeah, definitely. I didn't expect it. I mean, or rather like this, I was kind of hoping to be somewhere on the list for the first year ever. Because I'm obviously it's been a good year. Um, but yeah, being within the top 100, I did not expect. So that was obviously a very pleasant surprise. Yeah, 70 is a pretty good placement, I'd say, for a newcomer, and from a very obscure region as well for wrestling. So yeah, that did feel really good, I have to say. And obviously, other like I know Regina made her debut as well on the list, which is also really cool to see. So there is more eyes on the Nordics, I think, in general.
Okay,
And
before we
also the men's list as well. I mean, it's Danish rest is on there now, and it's I think it's Swedish as well, actually. So
yes.
yeah,
Well, I was going to say, my apologies for cutting you off, but I got to say, the fact of the matter is this, like you brought it so appropriately here. The Nordics, the people just from different international sides, like you mentioned, Dutch and what have you. I looked at the list first and foremost, not only just learning about the newcomers, but what I always say about this, when you look at the Pro Wrestling Illustrated history and even just wrestling lists in general, it's rewarding just to see not only the number, but that there's an article / editorial about really getting to find it. And I think a lot of people don't even realize like the importance and the significance of that, because when you're a kid in like the 80s or 90s and you're finding out about wrestling from different sites, from different newspapers, from different magazines, what have you, everything is at your fingertips, and that equates to anything that you learned in the ring. With everything being at your fingertips, it's so easy to learn and it's so easy to adapt. I think it's wonderful just to see that you got spotlighted in the profile on you.
definitely. Oh yeah, I mean it's and I mean I've been in PWI a couple times now actually in different not anything longer but short things, and it's always comes a bit of as a shock. And it's always like because I do try to like get the numbers now and then, but it's not readily available. It's not a paper you can pick up in the stores in Sweden. So I don't actually always see this myself. It's usually someone telling me, it's like, you're actually, they have your picture on here now. So that's always like, it's a super cool, it's a bit mind blowing, to be honest, because I never try to be to be like in the public eye ever in my everyday life. It's just something that comes with wrestling, and it's cool, and it's also a bit odd because I'm usually quite private person. So, but wrestling, it is a different. You get this different part of your life, which obviously brings a lot of experiences and a lot of maybe most of all, you meet so many people in wrestling that you would never have met otherwise. And yeah, it's really cool to all of these different destinies kind of like fall into wrestling. So it's this melting pot, like I have a good friend that call it a circus family, and it really is.
Now, I got to put this out here, folks, because this is also kind of what I wanted to mention here because you also brought this up. First and foremost, what I also like about you is the humbleness and just the fact, like you talk about being a private person. Like, I think as long as I've known you've gotten the interactions and the pleasantries that we've had, you're not one to just be like, what's up? Like, I mean, if you're wrestling, you don't have that cocky bravado attitude. There's a little thing for you. What's up? But no, that's the thing. Like, you've always been one that was very humble, and I love that because unfortunately, in anything, like some people can get full of themselves and be like to that boom. But I'm just like, I always like the fact that I always admire the humbleness just because, and also at the same time, you got to be humble when it comes to professional wrestling. You know what I'm saying? You got to be humble in anything just because the learning and the grind never stops. But I think it's always nice just to see someone like yourself just be so humble and disciplined. Like, that's a very admirable and admirable trait all in all that you have. So I have to just put you over on that front too.
Thank you. I also think like that's everything depends on maybe a bit when you start with wrestling, but like how you fall into it as well.
Right.
Obviously, coming from the martial arts beforehand and having all that hierarchy in the back of your spine almost, it's like you have that way of thinking, and it's always going to be a sensei. It's always going to be someone that is better, or at some point, if you're the best, people are going to be chasing you. So it's like if you can't be humble on the way up, you're gonna have to be humble on the way down, right? So it's much easier, like having that mindset all the time and trying to it's just trying to be nice to people. It's gonna make you feel better for starters, because being a douchebag, it's no fun for anyone, is it? And also it's like it doesn't cost anything. And generally, I think if you just give people a chance, most people are actually pretty fucking decent.
Agreed. I think it's the essence of who you are as a person and your overall spirit. And again, we talk about what you put into the energy and what your being is, what you put into the universe. I think everything does happen for a reason and everything will suffice as it is. And I mean, we talk about things sufficing here. We got to mention our girl, R squared. I mentioned her earlier. We got to talk about Regina Rosendahl up in here. Man, we talk about Japanese wrestling, and again, you two are attached at the hip, not just with your wrestling and just the chemistry you have in the ring, but you're going to Japan. Here she is over here in Japan, putting her feet up. She's taking on all these amazing opponents in Japan. Like, I love the fact that she's kind of got that big Van Vader vibe mixed with like Aja Kong, mixed with like Bull Nakano with what she's doing with her persona. And again, unfortunately, she's out with injury right now, and a speedy recovery to you, Miss Regina. But god dang, man, she's another one taking the world by storm.
Oh, definitely. And it was so when I heard she was going, I was like, wait, which dates? And I just missed her. I mean, because obviously it was just a few weeks in between when she went back and I got to Japan. So it would have been fun to do something with that. Just have this. I would have loved for someone to film us, just like me on the street somewhere in Japan, just like staring at each other. Didn't have the opportunity to do that though. But no, she's obviously she's had a absolutely smashing year as well. She's done so well with everything, and obviously ending with injury. I mean, it happens to all of us at some point, I assume, or most of us at least. I just hope she'll be back soon, and that it's not going to be anything sustaining, like any sustained injury anywhere. But I mean, she's a force to be reckoned with. So, and I think the wrestling is better with her in it. She that type of gimmick and that type of obviously experience as well is very needed on the women's scene in Europe, especially, but even in other places as well. And I know she has high ambitions and high goals. So I hope she has a chance to accomplish that when she's back.
One of the things that I admire, and I equate this with you too as well, I admire just her overall passion for wrestling and women's wrestling specifically, and how she wants to make a great place for women, whether it be, Finland or just anywhere that really represents anything around Europe, and just to travel, like we mentioned, Japan here. She has a great mindset for how she wants to tell the story and put the layers and everything into place, like we talk about puzzle pieces, so to speak, like you mentioned earlier. I love that, man. I got nothing but great things to say about that woman. And I got to say, if you've not checked out Regina, much like you should check out Aliss Inc. over here, AI. And no, I'm not talking about artificial intelligence. I'm talking about Aliss Inc. over here. You should go out of your way and check her out, man. Because, I mean, first of all, that woman could get off the mat. Jesus, like with her splashes and her sentons. I'm having flashbacks to Bull Nakata, like I mentioned. The woman could get up there, but she can brawl, and she's quick, and she's athletic. And I got to say, for such her size and stature, she's got that poise, too. And like I said, that goes with everything. That really leads her to the right destination in her journey. And I think her journey is going to continue, and I know she'll pull through.
I'm absolutely sure she will as well.
And Miss Aliss Inc., I got to say with you as well, we got to talk about more of these Japanese matches here, because god dang, man, you have been in there. We mentioned, first of all, Mayu Yamashita. Let's get more into this one here, because Mayu Yamashita has been on AEW television. She's been in all around the Americas, if you will, the overall, just the independent scene. She's done things stateside. She's done things internationally. You got to be in there with Mayu Yamashita, who, by the way, again, quickness, stature, poise. Let's talk about Mayu up in here, because what a year she's had, and just what a trajectory her career's gone into professional wrestling.
Well, definitely, but I mean, it's the thing when you do these kind of tours, as it has been with Stardom, is because it's so many matches, right? I mean, these girls work like crazy. It is absolutely mental. So you never get to the point, or at least I didn't, where you actually stop and realize, wow, I'm working against these people that have done all of these things, and it's like, because yes, obviously it was absolutely amazing to work with her. It was amazing to work with everyone, though. Everyone's at such a high level, and also just the way of they think about wrestling. It's been such a good experience to hear and like try to pick their brains a little bit. Obviously, the language barrier is one thing, but just getting uh, getting their kind of way of being around wrestling and trying to be a part of that. That's been absolutely amazing. But you never get to that point when you stop and think, oh wow, I'm actually working this person that's done all of this, because you're always in it. It's always like, oh shit, I'm doing this now, and then it's this, and then because it's such a demanding tour schedule. You do a show in one city, then you go on the bus, and then you go to the next place, and then the next day you have the next city, and it's obviously different matches, different settings. But it's very hard to. It's not until like now when I'm back and I've actually worked for these people. They do amazing stuff. They're probably, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a few of them show up in the US in a very short amount of time. So it's like uh, to have been a part of that journey as well, which is, I mean, even if it's just for that short 5 minutes or whatever, uh, that's a really cool thought, and it's a cool experience to have had. And obviously, I mean, I think that's something, but it's I'm very happy about that, and I'm also very I mean, very humbled that I got the chance to this. I'm super happy with obviously getting the chance just to getting there, but also how they put me in matches while I was there. Like having the chance to actually work with people with these names is like it's mind boggling. But right then in it's just like, okay, this is a job. What is the goal for this evening? And then you're on to the next one. So it's but yeah, absolutely. Just to dial back to your question a little bit. I'm so sorry. I'm just like
You're fine.
all right. No, but I mean, yeah, that was absolutely amazing. And like with everyone there, it's like they've so much expertise in doing this, and it's like it's you can tell in the ring as well. It's obviously you have different chemistry with different people, but sometimes you can just tell when a person can go into the ring and have chemistry with anyone. And I'd say that goes for most of the people I was working with there. And honestly, to have a roster like that, that's not a lot of places you're going to find that. I can tell you that much.
Two things. First off, never apologize for rambling. Love the passion, because I think a lot of people can learn some stuff from it, so you're good. But number two, I gotta say, first and foremost, like I've always said this about Japanese wrestling, and some people in America are, you know what it is too, and I think a lot of people in America grew up with the WWF and grew up with the storytelling aspect. There's very many aspects of storytelling, not just from the character work and the wrestling work. Like I've always said when it comes to Japanese wrestling, like you wrestle 30 nights in like a G1 tournament or anything like that. You wrestle from city to city, like you mentioned with the bus. And there's something that's always different about that. Like it's a grueling schedule, but it's worth it. Also from the thrill of performing and the entertainment side of things. And I've always said this, like I've always appreciated not just the discipline and everything that goes to the Japanese maneuvers, but it's like when you're looking at like the strong style and the suplexes and everything that goes into it. Like I was a kid on Christmas, like when you see Takeshi Morishima come from like 0-1 or different wrestling promotions, and you're seeing him do backdrop drivers in Ring of Honor against Bryan Danielson, or you're seeing someone like Asumi Sakai come over who now just retired. Like you're seeing a lot of great men and women from international side of things that come stateside. Like not only you get a chance to learn from and learn about, but there's something that I've always appreciated, just the fact of like, you know, integrating the styles, intertwining with the styles. You can learn something from everybody, like we mentioned in today's forum, but there's something that's just unique about learning from that, the meticulous side of things, working over a joint, so to speak. There's something that goes into it. I think it's chess, man. Everybody else is playing checkers, you're playing chess, and that pinfall, that submission is the checkmate, man. It's a mind control, it's a mind meticulous fashion, but at the end of the day, it's chess, man. Get that checkmate.
Yeah, there you go.
And I got to say, first and foremost, with what you put in checkmate here, Miss Aliss, I think you have been doing your thing as well in Copenhagen, doing your thing, hometown side of things, man. Sweden, I've seen a lot of the work there. You've put in a lot of great matches in there. I've seen you do some stuff with Lexi Lux, Daisy Jenkins, Ruby Roberts. Like I get to also study a lot of the great talents that are over there. They're also at the come up. I got to give credit to the hometown, man, because there's a lot of great local promotions, and you've been doing your thing, man.
I mean, it is happening a lot in the Scandinavian scene as well. Obviously, Denmark is, especially Copenhagen, and also around Denmark is, it is definitely a growing market, and it's such a fun audience to work for. It's there. I think you can take most places around the world and say, okay, this is a rowdy crowd. Then you just turn it up, like at least like half as much added. And then you have the Copenhagen crowds. They're always in it. They just want to have an amazing time, and they make sure both them and the wrestlers have an amazing time being there. So kudos for that. So it obviously there's always like sold out shows. So that's definitely like one of the marks I think gonna hear more about, and being a part of that, and obviously now having both the women's and the regular belt for Body Slam. It's obviously that's that's a bit of it's a big thing, because not that many women has had like it's not men's belts obviously, but like the general belts for promotions around here. So that's obviously a big thing as well. But I think it's a lot of potential, and I think if you look at Sweden, obviously in Stockholm as well. I'm a part of now starting up like a training school as well for new coming wrestlers, hoping that that's gonna also help the market a little bit, getting some more talent in, and try to create this community around it. So we have people coming in, but it's always it hasn't been that continuous. It's been hard finding good training venues and so on. So being a part of trying to make that part of wrestling grow as well, and like trying to put something back into the home or the Scandinavian scene, that also feels very good. Hopefully, that's going to lead to better things in the future for everyone from this region.
All right, so I'm going to put a visual in people's faces. I kind of did this with Sweden, Scandinavia, and everything in Denmark in there. I kind of like intertwined everything, and I'm glad you brought this up too, as I do my little visual slide right into it. There is something that I love about what you mentioned there, the Body Slam Championship, because I also got to put this out there, man. you take pride in that belt, number one, but also number two, that says something when you're holding the championship and many different people that are in that promotion. It says something about your work too, man, because I know how much you take pride in that championship and the matches that you had there. And I've seen it from just how the importance of that belt is. I think I see just the high regard and just everything that goes into it. I'm very enamored with seeing stuff like that. And I love to see people like yourself represented in such a great company. So I'm glad we also got to enforce that into it, because I love local promotions and I love the fact that a lot of talent are on the rise like yourself. But that belt, man, that Body Slam Championship, everything that you go into it, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a lot of prestige that goes into that.
Oh, definitely. I'd say because obviously one of the biggest shows for Body Slam every year is the Scandigraps, which is obviously an annual event. And I'd say, I mean, I won it a couple of years back, but it's obviously an ongoing thing, and it's a big thing in the Nordics to be a part of that. And obviously, winning the Scandigraps is also a very big deal, and that always kind of leads to it's been a stepping stone for a lot of wrestlers, I'd say, from this region, and especially in this region. So that's also something that I think Body Slam has kind of brought to the scene, and everyone. It doesn't matter if you're from Finland or from Norway or from Sweden or Denmark. You want to be a part of that tournament because it is very iconic for this region and for wrestling here. So that's a really, really cool thing. And obviously that also leads on, as you said, to the championship and being the first woman to hold the main championship belt as well as the women's belt is obviously super cool. So we will see what the future holds. I'm sure a lot of people will be gunning for me for those. So we'll see how that turns out in 2024. But I'm here for the ride.
It's the ultimate thrill ride, folks. I can't wait to see you defend that championship in 2024. And I really can't wait to see what the future holds. And I know it will be bright. And I'm just glad that, we got to do this for a second time and really shoot the breeze that we do. And you got to see some more hand gestures, folks. And what's up? Because it's hard to be humble when you're Aliss Inc. There's a catchphrase for you, ma'am. Hard to be humble when you're Aliss Inc. Yes, ma'am. Okay. But no, and in all seriousness, and I joke and I kid and I jest, but you have just been on the rise, and I can't wait to see your star continue to shine. And we definitely got to do a round 3 of this in 2024. It's always a blast talking to you.
Absolutely. Hopefully with some maybe a longer US tour in the back pocket at that point. We'll see.
This one over here, great minds think alike. I was about to say positive U.S. tour next time, ma'am, with just more in there in the mix, if you will, because there's a lot of great companies as well as Combat Fights Unlimited. Check them out. Links will be in the description. But there's a lot of great companies out here in these states that really represent women and just represent great wrestling. So I hope to see you become more part of those.
Yes, definitely. That would be amazing. And obviously, I mean, I'm looking into, can I go back to Japan at some point? That's also would be something I would like to have, maybe for 2024 for another tour. But we'll see. There's a lot of places in Europe where I haven't been yet as well. So looking forward to exploring some more and seeing obviously as well, like trying to help the home scene grow as well. Because, like I said, I think it's a growing market here, and being a part of that and getting the audience in and being a part of creating those stories when we create the new fan base, that's also really cool. So even if it's a smaller scene, I'm not going to say that that doesn't make it necessarily a low priority either. So it's just a matter of getting the time to obviously to be enough. But yeah. I'm thinking probably going to be quite busy here.
Of course. And I think the more bookings, the more ways to not only just apply your craft, but just the more attention, the more eyes, so to speak, on Aliss Inc., which you should be having the eyes like this. That's what I'm saying. So I think the eyeballs are going to be more on you in the year 2024 and just continue to grow, man. I really am excited to see. I can't stop smiling. I can't wait to see what the future holds and what 2024 holds for you, Miss Aliss Inc. But you are on social media. You are on Instagram. You are on Twitter. You're on Facebook. You post a lot. We show photos of your travels, your tours, and everything from your upcoming events. Where can we follow you on social media? The floor is yours.
Oh, I'd say Instagram is the best place to follow me, but I'm also, as you said, on Twitter. Instagram is Aliss _Inc_ and Twitter Inc. Aliss. Facebook, obviously as well. Shoot me DM if you have any questions or if you want merch, because that's going to come up in a bit as well, I think. Otherwise, if you want to find matches, I mean, there's plenty of good material on YouTube. You can obviously find my recent tour matches on the Stardom website. So yeah, there's a lot of things out there if you wanna scout for Aliss.
Watch her kick, watch her strike, and watch her opponents take a hike. Yes, I went there because there's a lot of kicks, there's a lot of strikes, there's a lot of suplexing. There's just a lot of people getting their dome pieces rocked, man, and just a lot of great artistry and a lot of great talent and a lot of great psychology, joint manipulation, meticulous. Yes, I'm using that word as well. You have the whole fold. You're a Jill of all trades, man. And I can't wait to see more of what we get to do. You should check out those matches. You should check out those great companies. And before we close this out, I will say, if you want to go back and listen to our first interview, which you should, because it's good, much like this one is going to be, you can check out round one with Aliss Inc. on my YouTube channel, Mike Larkin92. Give a subscription, if you will. There's a lot of great interviews on there from wrestling, from many different facets of life. I love what I do, and I love giving people the platform to tell their stories. All the links will be in the description below this show. And as I always say to end each and every show, beauty, strength, and dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. Aliss Inc. I include you in those sentiments. Thank you so much for your time. It's always a blast talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me, and hope you're gonna have a splendid new year, and hope to talk to you again in 2024.
Agreed, folks. As we are recording this as well, going to make that note in here. It is right after Christmas, so this will be one of the first interviews in the new year. So happy New Year, everybody. Stay safe. Enjoy the holidays. Enjoy every time with your loved ones. Life is an art form. We're all applying our crafts. Continue to apply it in amazing fashion. Allison, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.